Wailing gripped Alvin's arm. When she spoke, her tone was icy. Alvin, if we start investigating this case now, Sergeant Sue might arrest us or throw us in jail. After all, he did say there'd be consequences if we interfered. Alvin nodded grimly. Sure, but what about the consequences for Howard Chiam if we do nothing? Life in jail? A trip to the hangman? Azizu scowled. Alvin, I think the cops had got him stitched up. Rafe said, somebody's got him stitched up. Somebody planted the evidence for the police to find. I know, Alvin agreed. That is why we have to work fast. Wailing glad at him. And what exactly do you think we should do? Alvin grinned. Well, for starters, let's see what was in the puzzle Howard Chiam said he found on his desk. He swung around to Azizu. Where did you hide it? Azizu reached under the table and foraged in his detective kit, where the cops wouldn't see it. The investigators craned their necks when Azizu tabled the mysterious puzzle. It was compact and light. Azizu sensed it was a book. A handwritten message was scrawled on the bottom paper. The handwriting was spidery. It said, to Howard Chia, my loyal assistant, from Elias Hua. Careful not to damage the handwritten message, Alvin peeled tape from the puzzle and opened it. Inside was a slim book. It was clearly quite old. The cardboard cover was damaged, and the pages had yellowed. His friends gathered around to examine it. Look at the title, Ma said. Notes on the Valley of Kings by Professor E. Hua. It must be quite a rare book. Alvin flipped it open. See, it was published in 1982. Wailing agreed. That is a long time ago. She quickly did the math. The professor would have been about 30, about the same age as Mr. Chiam now. So the professor's been famous for a long while, Apita mused. It doesn't make sense. Who'd want to kill him? And why would he give a valuable old book like that to someone he didn't like or trust? Rafe asked. That also doesn't make sense. Wailing jotted more notes in her incident book. I agree, Rafe. It's not logical, is it? Alvin closed the professor's book and wrapped the brown paper around it. We can look at it again later, he said. He passed it to Wailing, who slipped it inside one of her box files. Azizu asked impatiently, So where to first, Alvin? Alvin pushed back his chair. The university, where else? Ma shot him a wary look. But won't the police be there? Alvin replied with a grin. The sergeant can't stop me going to the university. It's a big place, and anyway, I'm in search of knowledge. Wailing dawdled. About what? My hobby, Alvin told her. Egyptology. City University sprawled like a crazy jigsaw. Old stone buildings, clad with ivy jumbled with modern concrete and glass structures. When Alvin and his investigators stepped from their taxis at the main entrance, they saw several police cars parked outside one of the ivy-covered stone buildings. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out. Hey, Alvin, have you started work on the Hua case? Have you heard the latest news? Jack Moo came running towards them. The young reporter stopped mid-stride and snapped a photo of Alvin. Before Alvin could say a word, Moo went on. Have you heard that the police arrested Professor Hua's assistant? He came to our headquarters to get Alvin's help, and that's why they nabbed him, Azizu confided. But we don't think Howard Cham is the killer, Alvin explained. That's why we are here. He's been framed, Mas added. Moore's eyes lit up. Alvin, when you solve the case, promise you give me the scoop. Alvin grinned. You bet, he agreed. Gotta go, Moore called. Sergeant Sue is giving a press conference in half an hour. He blew a kiss to the girls and hurried off. Alvin led the way to the building where the police cars were drawn up. As they entered, the investigators caught sight of a forensics team packing their equipment. A directory by the door informed them that Professor Hua's office was located on the floor above. Alvin was about to take the stairs when he caught sight of Sergeant Sue talking to someone on the landing above. He ducked back outside, his team speeding after him. They took shelter in the entrance to the university library. I told you not to interfere in the sergeant's case, Whaling hissed. You never listen. But it's not a dangerous case, Alvin argued. There aren't any gangsters involved, are there? Azizu joined in, fiddling with his cap. Just an old professor got killed, that's all. Whaling flared, her beauty spot bobbing. That's not the point. And if the sergeant catches you here, he'll tell your mom. Alvin rolled his eyes. A moment later, he signaled for silence as Sergeant Sue strode from the building and drove off in a police car. The coast is clear, Azizu whispered. Alvin and the others started back inside to the staircase. When they emerged on the floor above, they saw a uniformed officer stationed outside a door at the far end of the corridor. As they approached, he called to them. This part of the building is closed to the public, he said. Police investigation. They were about to turn away when the door opened beside the officer, and a tall, stern-faced woman strode out. Whaling guessed that she was in her 50s, perhaps older. Her harsh feature made it difficult to tell. Her spectacles perched on her hawkish nose. Mas noticed the frames, bright red with black speckles. She walked straight towards them, her shoes clattering on the ancient marble floor. Excuse me, Alvin said, falling into step with her. Did you work for Professor Hua? The woman's stony gaze swept over the team. The late Professor Hua, she corrected him. I've been his secretary for the last 12 years. Mas flashed her a warm smile. It must be fun working in Egyptology. Uncovering the past is exciting. Is it? The woman countered. I wouldn't know. I was just his secretary. She stopped outside a door near the stairs. The sign read staff room. Now if you'll excuse me, the woman said, reaching for the handle. It's time for my break. Alvin handed his card and introduced himself. My name is Alvin Soule, and these are my investigators. The woman flicked her gaze over the card and arched an eyebrow. I thought the police were handling the professor's murder. They are, Alvin replied bluntly. We are following up on our own inquiry. Her eyes narrowed frostily. Well, I'm afraid I can't help you. I've told the police all I know. She was about to enter the staff room when Rafe asked politely, Were you here last night, Miss? My name is Ang, she snapped. Miss Ang, and no, of course I wasn't here last night. I work from 9 to 5, her jaw tightened as she reached again for the handle. I don't have time to talk to you. Peter asked quickly, Miss Ang, do you think Howard Cham really murdered the professor. The secretary lifted her head. Apita noticed a flash of uncertainty in her eyes, or was it fear? I really have a lot to do. The police have disrupted everything. I have to sort out all the professor's papers. Apita persisted. Can you think of any reason why Mr. Cham would want to kill Professor Hua? Miss Ang shook her head. I suggest you ask Howard Cham that question. Alvin managed to fire off one final question. Is Dr. Tarim here today? Miss Ang looked startled. No, why should he be? He is at his hotel, the Grand Majestic. Now that the professor is dead, Dr. Tarim is going back to Tyrell. She grabs the handle and pushed open the door. Now please, you must excuse me. The door closed in their face. Alvin glanced at his investigators. Well, what do you think? He quizzed them. She couldn't wait to get rid of us, Apita commented, and she looked kind of scared by some of our questions. She knows a lot more than she let on, Azizu growled. My thoughts exactly, Rafi agreed. She's hiding something. I thought she looked kind of guilty, Mas confessed. But we cannot do anything about it, Wei-Ling reminded them hastily. This is a police investigation and we are not supposed to interfere with it. Even if the professor's secretary is lying, Azizu challenged. It is not our business, Wei-Ling retorted. You know what Sergeant Su said. We cannot do anything about it, she repeated. She turned to speak to Alvin. He wasn't there. He was already halfway down the stairs. Wei-Ling called after him. Alvin, where do you think you are going now? The Grand Majestic Hotel, Alvin replied, picking up speed. I think it's time we met Dr. Tarim.